Hey guys, welcome to episode 32.
32, I think.
32 of A Trouble with Words, but not just any episode. It's another video episode.
And not just another video episode, another PAX video episode.
That's right, because this is PAX 2014, and we went back again.
To Boston.
They let us back.
They welcomed us back.
I don't remember being welcomed.
As special guests of the convention. We delivered the keynote Friday morning, and
My God, I don't remember any of that.
it was great.
I remember, well, and then, of course, I actually don't remember a lot of PAX. I feel like I just mostly am exhausted.
Yeah, so it's Sunday night. The convention is over, and we're doing our wrap up. We'll talk about some of the things we liked, some of the things we didn't like, and I'm going to tell you right now, the things I didn't like were mostly standing around, walking around, pain-related issues.
Because you're an old man.
Right.
You
right.
are, not me.
Oh.
I'm still young, and yeah, I'm in pain. I'm in pain, and I'm exhausted, and maybe I'm getting too old for this shit, but I don't think so, because I still love what it's about.
It's still really fun.
Yeah.
It's just a lot of... I mean, Saturday, we talked about it. We spent literally 8 hours wandering around the expo floor, and we didn't get halfway.
Yeah, that's true. 8 hours. 8 hours looking at video games. It's just it's a convention, so it's a massive room with everybody set up. And we started off in the indie game section, which, as you may remember, if you did watch last year's video, was our favorite part of PAX 2013. So we thought, let's really dig into it this year. Let's really focus on it.
And they really expanded that area this year, too. I forget the exact numbers, but Tim mentioned...
I think it was like 2 million games.
Yeah, it felt like that.
Something close to 2 million.
It felt like 2 million.
Tim, sadly, is not here today. We were going to have him on the show. I'd like to have him every year at PAX if we can. Tim Knowlton, he is awesome in that he is involved in... Well, he's awesome. He's awesome.
He's just awesome.
I'd say he's awesome. Very much PAX-wise, because he has a lot of involvement in the sort of behind the scenes of really like setting up that booth, because he's a part of it. He works with Run Jump Dev. It's basically the game development kind of group that he's a part of in Kentucky, and they put these games together, these indie games, and they're great. And this year their booth did something really cool.
Yeah.
So what was that really cool thing they did?
So
Justin,
they built an arcade cabinet.
Yeah, out of like nothing. They had nothing, and then they cut wood, and they got parts, and they put them together, and made an arcade cabinet from scratch.
To play their games, the games that they created.
They had 5 games. So basically, it was one of those kind of arcade cabinets where you can choose the game right in the beginning, and then you would just cycle through them and choose the one that you like the most. And do we know what those 5 games are? Do we remember them well? We tried them all. We played them all.
The fighting game was, I think it's Fearless Night.
Yeah, which was a one-on-one fighting game, kind of like Street Fighter. And a guy made it himself, doing all the animation. It was a 2D sprite-based game, meaning basically it's like hand-drawn.
Pretty amazing.
Really amazing.
I didn't really care for it. I'm not much of a fighting game fan. Right. I was pretty terrible at it, admittedly.
That's okay, because you were good at every other game, so it worked out.
Yeah.
I think that guy moved on to actually work in a bigger project, which is very exciting. Yeah. Also fighting game related. Yeah. Next game?
I'm blanking on the name. Was it Run World or Runner World?
Runner World? Man.
This is awesome.
So we did research. We do research.
Good stuff.
Yeah, a big part of PAX and any podcast is doing your research, knowing your stuff, and then forgetting it all and making something up.
It's a 2-player game, and you have 2 kind of courses, like a sprinter's course.
Yeah, it's actually kind of like NES's old track and field.
Yeah.
You rapidly press a button to move fast. In this, you alternate between 2.
As fast as you can.
You compete against the other person playing the second player, and so we competed a lot.
And then about halfway through the race, it goes to a mini game called the Sandwich Enforcer, which You build a sandwich by pressing colored buttons as they pop up on the screen.
So, like, you need to add a tomato to the sandwich, you press the red button. You need to add cheese, you press the yellow button. Lettuce is green, like that kind of thing. And then once your sandwich is built...
Then you go back to running.
Yeah.
And they had, I think, the top 100 top scores, it was letting you put initials in. It was keeping the top 100 scores.
And we got number 1!
No, we didn't. The closest I got was 17. And I felt pretty good about that. What were the numbers for the convention? They said like 25,000 people, something like that.
Yeah, 25,000 people at PAX.
So I don't know how many of those 25,000...
All of them, assuming...
stopped to play that game. But I'm going to say all 25,000. And I'm going to say I'm number 17 out of all 25,000.
And I think I was number 16, if memory serves me right. I was 25, was at least... 25. I know I got at least 25. 25. Yeah. Oh, yeah, we haven't even said this arcade cabinet has a name.
The Lexitron.
The Lexitron. Yeah, Tim was a big part of that. Our friend Tim, in the really construction of it. He was in charge of putting it together, getting all the parts.
Kind of the general contractor.
Yeah, of sorts.
What, Astronaut Kitty Boom Boom?
That was, okay, Astronaut Kitty Boom Boom was the third game. Yeah. And that is sort of it's actually similar to the sandwich kind of portion of the running game, and the idea that basically these key presses show up on a screen, and it asks you to press all those keys. Now, the good news is... it'll say like 4 different buttons you need to press, and it will let you press them in any order you want, just as long as you get them all eventually.
Without making other button presses.
Right. Don't make a mistake by pressing something else. It will then move to the next series of buttons. Yeah. And you just keep doing that, and on the screen you'll see your cat sitting on sitting there in the center of the room as dynamite and rockets,
TNT barrels, TNT. Grenades will just populate in the room around the cat. Yeah. As there's a fuse counting down, like your goal is obviously to get as much exploding things in the room,
biggest boom you can
before the timer runs out. So when it runs out, the game stops and everything explodes, launching your kitty through the roof. Right. And then it starts the second half of the game, which is basically the same thing, but you're launching rockets to blast your kitty higher and higher and higher.
Yeah, so the cat's like flying upward, and then you keep doing the button presses, and then you hit it with another rocket, and it gets propelled higher. And the goal is to get your cat the highest, basically.
Now, I don't want to brag,
but here I'm about to brag.
I'm about to brag. I beat Josh every time we played, except for the very last. And
thank you for having that be on record, though, by the way, because I never thought I would win a match of that. It was awesome. Yeah. You were like beating me by like 3 times my score.
Yeah, well, I asked Tim what an average, what a decent score was on that game, and he said about 75, 80,000. Yeah. And I think my high score was 100,000. So I felt pretty good about that.
Yeah, you were also one of the best, I think, in the entire convention center out of 25,000 people at that game. Yeah. So that's like 2 for 3.
I'm awesome.
Yeah, you're pretty awesome. Yeah. So you did. So that game was fun. And then the next game was...
The Lickening.
The Lickening.
That one's actually been out a little while. I think it's a free-to-play game that you can get to on the internet.
I think so, too.
It's basically like the old Atari game Snake.
So in this, though, there are two
faces.
Contestants.
Like this. And they just grow. And so you're trying to get your tongue...
Not touch your own tongue or the other person's.
Yeah.
And...
be the last tongue standing.
Right, I guess, yeah.
I can't remember the name of the jetpack one, and I wish Tim was here because he would know it.
Yeah, that's why he's supposed to be here. That's like his job. That's his one job. I don't know. It was like jetpack... I don't know, jetpack something. I think jetpack's in the name. I'm pretty confident. Anyway, that plays as... basically, it's basically these characters, and if you press left or right, you go that direction while lifting up.
And then if you press down, you slam down really fast.
Yeah.
So your goal is to get above another player and slam down and make them explode in a bloody mess.
Or pick up a chainsaw and rip them apart with that chainsaw.
Yeah. And this is all in like really basic 8-bit.
Yeah, like an old Atari game.
Yeah.
Yeah, even older than 8-bit.
And there's spikes along the top and along the bottom, so if you crash yourself into the ceiling, you die. So the goal is to keep a nice middle ground, but also stay above the other players.
And there's a lot of death in that game.
A lot.
That was at least my experience. I was horrible at that game. It was so bad.
You were so bad.
You're not supposed to just agree with that.
So bad.
Wow, was I bad, though.
We played a couple of games on our own, and I was kind of destroying you. Yeah. And I think Tim felt bad for you because he came over and said, this is a 3-player game, and then jumped in and started destroying.
And then they both proceeded to destroy me. Yeah. Without trying, I was just there. I mostly killed myself. It was pretty bad.
Let's talk about Space Jeff.
Yeah, let's talk about Space Jeff. I don't even know how to describe it basically, but
so in Space Jeff,
you describe
it's a 4-player cooperative game where you all control one astronaut in the center of the screen.
Yeah.
Each of you has a controller that you use one button. That one button controls thrust in one direction.
Yeah.
So one of you will thrust up, one of you will thrust down, one of you will thrust left, and one will thrust right. And so you have to cooperate,
work as a team
to navigate around the screen and capture the
kind of glowy ball things. Yeah. And there's these,
as the difficulty ramps up.
There's these obstacles, let's say, that are creative and added pretty constantly. Yeah. Every level is just incredibly bizarre. And it's really fun, though. It's a ton of fun. A lot of games that have that kind of mechanic where you work with somebody else and you all have to communicate are some of the most fun to play. They're really rewarding, and this is one of those. Yeah. And it's fun because when we played it with strangers, as most people did at PAX. You just kind of, whoever's near, they all end up playing the game together. And I think we did pretty good in that. Didn't we beat it, the demo he set up?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so that's pretty awesome. I feel pretty good about that. Yeah, so that's pretty much Run Jep Dev that was there this year. Other than that, mostly we have other indie games to talk about.
Well, let's talk about the only real big name AAA title that I had any real interest in, and I think you too. I mean, we walked around the whole floor, the rest of the floor today. Yeah. The only one that really had any interest for me was Watch Dogs, the new open world Chicago hacking.
We talked about that game last year to give you any sense. It was actually delayed and didn't come out when it was supposed to. Yeah. It's gotten some criticisms about maybe not looking as good as it originally looked, and there's a few things about it, but I think that ultimately it still looks like it's a good game. I mean, my final verdict is I do want to play it.
Yeah. I might not rush out on day one or pre-order it, or, I've got plenty of games to play. I mean, I might sit on it for a little while before I pick it up, but as kind of one of the only games I'm excited about coming for the PS4, I'm going to play it at some point.
Yeah, I'm definitely going to play it, and I'm not going to buy it day one. I wasn't even willing to reserve it to get a free T-shirt, which is how they do things now at PAX. I didn't do that,
but there was really nothing else like AAA that I was super excited about. Evolve looks pretty good.
It does. That's the one from the guys who created Left 4 Dead. I don't know if you saw much about it. There's a Game Informer about it, but basically, there's one player plays a giant monster thing that lives in this kind of nature area, and the other players play these futuristic hunters. And there's a statue displayed in front of their booth that was just a giant, I think scale model of what it should be like for the hunters in the game dealing with it.
It's called the Goliath.
Goliath, yeah, and it's pretty intimidating. It was awesome. I do think the design's really cool, and the game looks decent. I think it looks like a good game, but it's hard to judge without playing it.
Yeah. We stood and watched some gameplay for a little bit, and I'm willing to give it a shot, but again, probably won't buy it on day one.
Oh, I have a AAA thing I was excited about.
Yeah.
Ironically, though, I didn't play this until the indie area. None of the AAA people had this at all available, but it's not a game. It's like a peripheral for a game.
Oh.
Which is the Oculus Rift. If you don't know what that is, it's a 3D helmet virtual reality system. It's basically if you remember...
Helmet. More like goggles.
It's goggles. They have bands, though, that go like this. So it feels like a helmet when you put it on your head. It's really cool. If you ever saw old movies like Lawnmower Man and stuff, I have been wanting virtual reality.
Just like that.
It's just exactly like that.
You put it on and everything is weird, blocky, purple and green polygons. And
it makes you smarter.
Yeah.
And that makes you evil because smart means evil.
Right. And I think you have weird polygonal sex. Isn't that how that movie...
Wait, what?
Isn't there a whole a weird computer sex sequence in that movie?
I don't remember that. I don't know what that is. That might be the porn based on it.
That's just in my dreams.
It might be. This is not the Oculus that I experienced. Yeah. I did no sexual stuff at all.
We played at a couple of indie booths. They had the old kind of lower resolution Oculus devices. Meaning
the screen that you were looking at was a lower res, so everything was a little blurrier.
I forget the name of the game, but it was like a 2D side-scrolling fighting game that was set in an Aztec sort of setting.
Kind of. I don't know. It was a seemingly made up setting, but you were it had that I don't know, really simple graphics, black and white with some like
I
red
really
for
liked
blood.
the aesthetic.
It was cool. It was a cool aesthetic, and it was weird because Oculus Rift or Oculus now, it's basically what it does to kind of clarify. So you put these goggles on, and it simulates the experience of using screens that you're looking right at. Of anywhere you turn your head, it tracks. So you're seeing in the world where you look. Yeah. You have control over your view by using your head, moving your head around. So it effectively makes you feel like you're in that location.
Yeah.
And that's awesome.
It was pretty cool in that game, but the game that really knocked it home for me was the vertiginous golf.
Golf is what did it. Me too.
It was so vertiginous golf. It's mini golf, but it's extreme mini golf, and
I gotta say, I was not impressed by the game personally.
I'd play it.
You would?
I'd play it.
I thought it looked kind of rough around the edges. I mean, a little too crazy.
The focus was way off on that, and we didn't have time to adjust the focus. Like, he's just put it on and play the game. Get out of here.
My favorite part was how they loaded it. The walking into the shop from the street.
Yeah.
And getting in the chair.
Yeah.
That was my favorite part. But the game itself was cool, but the crazy part of that game was the beginning.
Yeah. They launch you into the game, and they go way up high, and you're standing there at the booth with the controller in your hand, like looking into this world, and you can't see anything else. You can't see yourself, and you said you did too. For a second, I thought I was going to fall down. It really is that. I mean, that's why they call it vertiginous golf. You get a real sense of vertigo.
Yeah, seriously.
I think it would be all right if I were playing sitting down. It would still give you that sense, but I wouldn't want to play it standing up. That's
no, it's weird, and it's such a weird feeling because it really does trick your brain into thinking you're flying, and you have nowhere to like put your feet, and you don't feel like you're grounded, basically. Yeah. I will say my follow up to that game was I actually went and used the newest version, which was a much higher res. And it was a game where everybody did sit down.
Couch nights?
Yeah, couch night. And it was, basically the concept of this was you put the headset on, sat down in a chair, and somebody sat down next to me, just across the way, with the same setup. And we were in a multiplayer game. So I could look over and see an avatar that represented them, and they could see an avatar that represented me in this game world. And we were in a living room. In the center of the room was a coffee table. And on that coffee table, we would have characters that would spawn. Little kind of cartoon characters with a sword and a shield. And one button would fire a fireball, one would swing the sword, and one would block. And we could control them with the controllers, much like you would in any game. You could move them around and attack each other. But what was weird is it gave you that sense of real space. So it felt like I was controlling these real things in this room that I was in. And they could jump off the table. You could make them jump off the table, run around the room. They'd fight on the couches around you, the television, like all over the place.
That's awesome. And
you could even like turn all the way around and see behind you. So you could try to like get into someone's blind spot and force them to engage you there. It was good. It was really fun, and I really liked it. And it really sold me on the Oculus because I'm going to get one as soon as it's something that, I don't know, is being sold.
Is affordable.
Well, basically, yeah. I loved it. And I will say I won my match, too. So maybe that helped.
I did not play that one. We'd gone by the Oculus booth a couple of times, and every time the line was capped because it was so busy and so popular.
Yeah.
And we'd been by this morning, and it was capped, and they said, come back maybe around 2:30. And we happened to be coming through there anyway about quarter or 3.
Exactly.
And the line was capped, and I kind of laughed and said, you're not going to get to play it. It's capped. And so we were kind of standing there watching the other people play because they have monitors set up so that passersby can watch. They basically just said the Oculus line is open, and I swear to God,
everyone from every direction is what it felt like. Just swarmed, ran
and
at
Josh
this line.
Made it in line, and I didn't. So he went and stood in line for like an hour.
It was like 40 minutes. It was one of the shorter lines I've been in PAX. PAX is about lines.
It is about lines.
Yeah. All right, so let's talk about some quick indie games. We've got some examples we want to run through, talk a little bit about what we thought of them, what we liked, what we didn't like. We tried so many games.
So many.
Like, if they said, hey, would you like to try this? We said yes every time.
Yeah.
And if They didn't say it. We hung around until they did, for the most part, until there was an opening. I probably played 30 or 40 games, I feel like.
Easily.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, not all of them were great.
No.
But a lot of them were pretty good.
Yeah, a lot of them were very good.
And I have to say, I was impressed last year. I'm impressed this year. There's a lot of kind of game colleges that come.
Yeah.
And some of those games are pretty great.
Yeah, it's pretty cool to see. I mean, they're always going to be a little bit rougher around the edges than some of the other games you'll see at the show, but it's inspiring because these are people just learning it, just getting started on making something. It's so funny because when they need work, you can tell that the students are generally really self-conscious about that.
Yeah.
And they're like, just like giving you a list of why things didn't work before you even like, you're like, hi, my name's Josh. And they're like, here's why my game's bad. It's pretty funny. But, oh man, I look forward to that in some ways. Yeah. Maybe more than anything else. I love playing those. Yeah. There's always like 4 games set up.
Because you never know when one of those is going to turn into something big.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. I mean, that's totally true. Yeah. So that was cool. There was this other game that you remember the name of, and I cannot remember the name of it, but it involves vegetables.
Organic Panic. Organic
Panic. It's basically vegetables against the meats and cheeses of the world. But that's not so important, I don't think, to what I experienced. It's basically like a platformer where you control this character that has total ability to basically all the environment is destructible if you have the right equipment to do it. So you can, cut through rock and destroy trees, and
so you can kind of like tunnel into the ground and spiral around and make whole pieces of terrain just collapse and kill other monsters.
Yeah, because it has physics. It also has a water simulation or liquid simulation.
Yeah. Information and it looked really kid-friendly. It was when I instantly thought, I could play this with Claire.
Yeah, and it would be a lot of fun.
Yeah.
So that's a cool game. I like that one a lot.
I had 3 I wanted to mention. Okay. And I think you played all 3. And
nice.
As a matter of fact, I only played one of them. I just watched you play 2 of them.
That's true. We couldn't always get in, but if we couldn't both play it, we could watch the other one play it, which is pretty cool.
So one of them was Discourse. It's kind of like a choose your own adventure.
Basically.
Yeah. Yeah. The art style was really interesting. Had this really kind of
Double Fine vibe to it, I thought.
Yeah.
It really looked like a Double Fine game.
So the basic premise is you are involved in a plane crash on this island, and then you have to survive with the other survivors.
Yeah. Exactly. And you make decisions, and those decisions have consequences.
Yeah.
In fact, the way they set up the demo was there were multiple results that could happen, and they gave out pins, because one of the things about PAX is there are these collectible pins. Everybody has them, and everyone's giving them out, and people try to get all of them if they can. And this booth was giving out certain ones depending on what your outcome was.
Yeah.
And I got what was a very rare pin, apparently, because I was the only one to kill my main character off.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because of the decisions I made.
Yeah.
So, which is pretty funny.
And they gave me one too, which I thought was nice.
Yeah, because he played it with me. So I will say that I tried to do that. That was intentional, to make the worst decision. Not to kill my character, but to do the things I wouldn't normally do, because I figured I was playing a demo. Yeah. And it was fun to play out of gaming character for me. I kind of enjoyed it.
It was a fun game. I would, when it comes out, if the price is reasonable, and it's on a platform that I have access to. I don't know if it said. It says Steam in 2014, so it's likely PC only. But
for now, it definitely needs. It looks like it needs to be a console game. Nothing about it couldn't be, and I would love to play it on a console. So hopefully.
So the next one I want to talk about, I know for a fact that you did not like. It's called Extra Solar, and the demo that we played was kind of like a terrain map where you had a rover of some kind, and it would give you instructions like take your rover to this point and set up a picture and a time of day that you want to take a picture, and then it shows you the picture you took, and you get to tag interesting items, kind of like you're tagging a friend on Facebook, but like you tag an alien for further review or whatever.
And the game would say you're sending it to these scientists, and then they would give you the results.
They'd analyze it.
Although it ended before you got the results.
Yeah. So that was the whole demo, and they're like, if you like the game, sign up, and you can do this. It's all browser-based, yada, yada, yada. And Josh immediately got up and said, this is stupid, and walked away.
That's not accurate.
Because
I sat there and played that demo 10 times in a row, from beginning to end. 10 times in a row while I waited for Justin to play. I just kept replaying it again and again and again. Because I wanted to see if you could even affect anything, which you could not. It didn't matter what you did. Yeah. It was always the same result. This is not as exciting as it sounds. You don't move a rover. You're looking at a map, and you draw a line from this part of the map to this part of the map.
Waypoint.
Yeah, kind of.
So anyway,
I
signed up to be part of their program or whatever, their email list.
Yeah.
And that is when you discover that that's not necessarily all there is to the game. Turns out it's kind of it's one of those games where they send you emails and links and engage with you, and there's a whole story that kind of comes out. I mean, within the first couple of hours, I got an email from the company that says, we got a lot of applications right now. We can't. You're not going to be allowed to be in the beta program, whatever. And I was like, oh, that kind of sucks. And then I immediately got another program from some random person who was like, this company isn't what they say they are. I can get you secret access to the program. Here's cool. like this. It's this whole alternate reality game kind of thing going on.
Yeah. It deserves more credit. I was wrong.
And then the last one I want to mention is Delver's Drop.
Yeah, this may actually be my favorite indie game of the show. So I think the best way to describe that is, have you ever played Legend of Zelda on the Super Nintendo?
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, it looks a lot like that. Aesthetically,
I think it looks a lot better.
Well, it's like if they took that and modernized it.
Yeah.
So they gave that HD graphics so that the art was really crisp.
Yeah. So it's a procedurally generated roguelike, which if you don't know what that means, it basically means it's an RPG with permadeath, basically. But if you die, your character dies and you have to start a new game. That's the
And procedurally generated means that the levels are randomly created by a computer. So they're effectively never the same game every time you play it.
Yeah.
So you can't just memorize something, get really good at it, and get really far.
Yeah.
Because you won't know what's going to be happening. So permadeath and unpredictable levels.
Yeah. And
pretty good combo.
And it looks really good, and it plays really good, and there's a bunch of different character classes you can try out. And,
I'm gonna download that game and play it. Space Jeff, we talked about earlier. I may also play that. And by the way, if you get a chance and do get to play that game, look for our faces in that game at some point in the future, because we made that happen because we have connections.
Yeah.
So connections in the biz.
Right.
Yeah. So what else? What are some other games?
There Came an Echo.
Nice, and that's the one with the voice activated commands, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Butt Stallion to Alpha 1.
Yeah, because
it's kind of like a top-down sort of isometric squad-based voice command game. Yeah. So you have a handful of soldiers on a grid with different terrain and cover, and you can say all units to Bravo 3, and there's a couple of key coordinates on the board.
You'll see it'll say B3 in this area, and then A3, and that'll be Alpha or Bravo, and you'll just know. Yeah.
So they'll all get up and run to that spot and take cover as necessary, and you can call them out individually, and you can set aliases, which is the whole Butt Stallion thing.
Like nicknames.
I would prefer just to call them by their name.
Yeah, which is what I did. You could just say Colin Bravo 3, and then that way you would go.
Yeah.
And that's the thing, though. It's only voice controlled. You don't use any other controls. You just say into a mic what you want them to do, and they do it.
Yeah. Will Wheaton did some voice work.
Oh, I thought I recognized him.
Yeah.
I didn't really.
No, he did. Will Wheaton of Tabletop.
Maybe a great transition into tabletop
games. That's kind of what I was thinking.
I came up with that just now. I'm like, you know what I'm going to do? Use that to transition into tabletop gaming. I did that.
It worked.
Yeah. I'm slick.
So PAX also has a pretty decent tabletop.
It could be its own convention.
We walked around. We didn't really sit for any board game demos this year. We did last year.
None of them called out to me.
Yeah. As a matter of fact, the game we sat for last year,
Shadowrun Crossfire, which we liked.
Yeah. It's kind of like a cooperative deck building Shadowrun game. If you're not familiar with Shadowrun,
it's basically if you took fantasy and you took sci-fi and went bam, and that's what Shadowrun is.
If you ever read Neuromancer by William Gibson, and then added some fantasy races in there too, you'd be pretty close to Shadowrun.
Yeah.
So anyway, we played the demo last year, and we both kind of liked it. I liked it a lot, I think. Kind of my goal going into the tabletop area was to find that and buy it. And we did find it. It's not available yet.
Yeah, they were still demoing it. It was updated, looked better.
It was semi, production quality with real artwork, and
it
looked nice.
It did. We were just so upset we couldn't buy it that we left.
Yeah. But they did say it will be available at Gen Con, which I believe is in August. So, one of the other highlights I wanted to mention We got to see a screening, the world premiere, as a matter of fact.
Yeah, a movie that Tim, our friend, was a part of a reading for. Originally, this has started off as a stage play for a play that was later cast and had a lot of success and did really well. But before it was that play, it was a reading that Tim played the lead character in, our friend Tim. And we didn't get to see that performance, but I always wanted to. I read the script a couple of times, or the stage play a couple of times. And then apparently that writer talked to a director, had adapted himself into a screenplay and made a movie. And we saw the premiere of that movie at PAX East 2014. And it's called...
Of Dice and Men.
Of Dice and Men.
Yeah. Cameron McNary. Pretty sure it's Cameron McNary. We met him. Tim introduced us to him. Super nice guy.
He was.
He's actually in the movie. He plays John Alex.
Yes. Good part.
Yeah. Super fun movie. They haven't reached any kind of production deal yet. So
I don't think so.
So I don't know how it will be available, but eventually it will be.
So check that out. Really good.
Super good. Super good.
I did want to say that overall, I thought that this PAX was missing in areas compared to last year and better in other areas. Hey, did we ever do an ending for this episode?
I mean, we still recording?
Well, the camera's still rolling. Hey guys! Thanks for listening to the episode of the podcast, and thanks for watching it, even more importantly. Hey, this was a really awesome PAX, and we are out of our minds tired, so I'm so sorry that we forgot to record a goodbye. But Justin takes full responsibility. Thanks again. See you next time. We're done now, for sure.
All right.
You
for sure? Okay.
Yeah, it's done.